It really is incredible how fast things seem to be moving these days. You know, you blink and the future feels like it's just here.
Yeah, ahead of schedule sometimes.
Yeah.
And trying to really get a handle on the big transformative shifts, well, it can feel overwhelming.
Exactly, like drinking from a fire hose. Which is why we're doing this. Today, we're diving deep into a really fascinating vision of what's next. The biohacking revolution.
hmm We've been looking at excerpts from this book, The Biohacking Revolution, set in 2082, and it pictures this world just completely transformed by, well, by people being able to modify their own biology on a massive scale.
It's not just like small tweaks either, is it? The book talks about a fundamental rethinking of what it means to be human.
Right. And it all apparently kicks off when these powerful gene editing tools become open source.
So if you want to get a clear picture of where something like this could lead, the breakthroughs, the ethical nightmares, the just really mind-bending stuff, then yeah, you're in the right place.
We're going to break down the key stages of this fictional revolution, unpack the ethical questions the book raises.
And explore how society might change. Basically, we're pulling out the core insights from this text and thinking about what they might mean. Okay, so where does it all begin? What's the catalyst in this story?
So the book points to this single pivotal moment in 2082. A scientist, Dr. Ari Mendoza, releases something called the Helix Core Genome Toolkit,
Releases at how?
open source. Puts the power of gene editing right out there for, well, potentially anyone. It basically democratized it.
Wow. Okay, that would be a big deal. Why? What was his thinking? I mean, the risks seem enormous.
They do. But according to the book, his rationale was all about urgency. He felt the danger of not adapting, of staying biologically the same while facing future unknowns was actually greater.
Greater than the risk of widespread biohacking.
That seems to be his position. There's this quote attributed to him. But the real risk is doing nothing while nature decides who we are. It's about agency, taking evolution into our own hands.
Evolution by choice.
That's a powerful idea.
Hmm.
So Mendoza lets the genie out of the bottle. What happens then? Does everyone just start editing their genes overnight?
Huh. Not quite that fast, but it definitely sets things in motion. You get the expected reactions, governments scrambling to regulate.
Corporations trying to lock it down and make money.
Exactly. But because it's open source, that kind of central control is really, really difficult. The book suggests that pretty quickly, individuals and groups just start experimenting. Innovation happens everywhere, bottom up.
Okay, and that leads to the first generation of modified people, the mods.
That's right. Suddenly you have people appearing with enhanced abilities, physical stuff like strength, speed, but also cognitive boosts, even heightened empathy in some cases.
Can you give an example? Who's someone from that early wave?
Yeah. The book focuses on a neuroengineer named Kyla Voss. She undergoes this procedure, synaptic lattice enhancement it's called.
Fictional tech, obviously. Right, fictional tech. But the result is her working memory triples. She can learn languages incredibly fast, solve complex problems, even communicate directly mind-to-mind using something called the neuromesh.
Whoa, hold on. Neuromesh. Telepathic communication.
Essentially, yeah. A kind of brain-computer interface allowing direct thought sharing. The implications are just huge.
I'll say. What did Kyla herself think about these changes? Was she, worried? Excited?
The book portrays her as seeing it very positively. Not just improvement, but evolution by choice. That phrase comes up again. It really captures the core idea.
But surely that kind of rapid change must have caused massive societal splits.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Straight away, you get a divide based on cost. The best enhancements are expensive, so the gap between the haves and have-nots widens.
And you get different groups forming.
Exactly. Collectives like Ascend pop up, offering cheaper, maybe riskier DIY mods. They inevitably clash with the official institutions. And then, yeah, you get the black market. Unregulated, dangerous modifications start showing up.
It sounds like a recipe for disaster, honestly. People pushing things too far.
And that's where the story of Milo Zarek comes in. It really highlights the potential dark side.
Okay, tell us about Milo. What's his deal?
He was this decorated soldier, used exoskeletons, that kind of thing, suffers a bad spinal injury, career over. He gets desperate.
And turns to the black market.
Bingo. Gets illegal biohacks, synthetic muscles, advanced optical implants, even hacked his pain receptors, turns himself into this, well, near superhuman mercenary.
He gets the power back, but there's a cost, I'm guessing.
A huge cost. The book describes severe psychological effects. Neural fragmentation, his sense of self starts breaking down. He has phantom timelines, remembers things that never happened.
That sounds terrifying, like losing your grip on reality.
Totally. He struggles to tell what's real, what's a dream. He eventually confides in Kaila, saying something like, "We were never meant to overwrite so much."
Chilling. It suggests there are limits, not just physically, but maybe mentally, to how much we can alter ourselves.
That seems to be the warning, that our sense of self, our humanity, might be tied to our biology in ways we don't fully grasp. Tamper too much, and you risk unraveling it.
It really forces that question, doesn't it? Where is the line? How much can you change before you're not, well, you anymore?
Precisely. Milo's story is that cautionary tale.
So you've got these incredible enhancements, but also these dangerous black markets and psychological breakdowns. It feels like things are building towards some kind of crisis.
Yeah.
The outline mentioned a Gene Tribunal and the Jakarta incident.
Yeah, the Jakarta incident is presented as this major turning point. Basically, a group of heavily modified individuals go rogue.
Rogue how?
They threaten to release a pathogen, a disease engineered to only target non-enhanced humans.
Oh my God. That's biological warfare on a whole new level.
Exactly. It sends panic across the globe.
Yeah.
Even though the threat is contained, it forces everyone to confront the dangers of unregulated biohacking head-on.
So what's the global response?
They establish the World Bioethics Tribunal, and they pass the Genetic Sovereignty Act. It tries to find a middle ground, affirming your right to control your own genome.
But putting limits on mods that could, destabilize everything or be weaponized like that.
Right. Though the book does mention that enforcing it, especially with the open source tech still out there, remains a huge challenge.
And Kayla Voss, the neuroengineer, she's involved in this.
Yes, she becomes a key figure arguing for the rights and perspectives of enhanced citizens during these big global debates. She often clashes with people like Dr. Emile Dargaud, who represents the anti-modification side.
What's their core argument, like the heart of the disagreement?
It's really fundamental. Dargaud basically accuses them of hubris, saying, "You play God. You sever the thread of shared humanity. Playing God, disrupting the natural order."
And Kayla's response?
She argues the opposite, that they're not severing that thread, they're extending it, elevating it, making humanity more. But even with laws and debates, the book makes it clear society stays deeply divided on this.
Okay, so a lot of this focus seems to be on physical power, intelligence. But you mentioned empathy earlier. The book talks about symbiosis and emotional augmentation.
Yeah, this is a really interesting turn. Away from just pure performance enhancement, some people start exploring ways to modify emotional responses.
How?
Things like tuning neural chemistry, using oxytocin regulators, basically. Tech designed to boost empathy, reduce aggression. A conscious effort to become more emotionally connected.
So instead of becoming more individualistic through mods, some are trying to become more interconnected.
Exactly. These individuals, called empaths, form groups called circles. And within these circles, they achieve something pretty radical.
Which is?
A kind of neural linking. Not full mind melding, but shared perception, deep mutual understanding, while still being individuals.
Wow. Shared feelings, shared understanding. What's that like?
There's a quote from a member, Jonas. "Imagine understanding someone so completely you feel their joy and sorrow as your own. It's not invasive, it's intimate." These circles become these pockets of intense peace and connection.
Redefining human connection itself. That's profound. But the story doesn't stop there. It goes even further with immortalis. What's that?
Right, so around 2103, this group called the Lifebound Initiative announces the Immortalis Protocol. It's aimed at achieving functional immortality, or post-mortality, as they call it.
How does that work?
It's described as a three-part process: cellular rejuvenation, fixing genetic aging markers like telomeres, and the really big one, mind state backup.
Mind backup, like copying your consciousness.
That's the idea, using something called quantum substrate mapping, again, fictional science, to scan and store your entire neural state. So even if your body is destroyed.
If there's a backup, you can be restored. Digital immortality, basically.
That's the promise.
Yeah.
And Kayla Voss is one of the first to undergo it. Her body is kept young, and her mind is backed up.
Okay, forget shared empathy. That changes everything. The philosophical fallout must have been immense.
Absolutely. The book touches on, does life lose meaning without death? What drives you? Huge debates erupt. Some see it as salvation, the ultimate triumph over limits.
Others must have seen it as completely unnatural, a step too far.
Definitely. Condemned as a Faustian bargain, playing God on an even grander scale.
It feels like every step forward creates backlash, which brings us to the resistance and the primalists. Who are they?
They represent the organized opposition to all biohacking. Their philosophy is rooted in ecology, ancestry, the natural order. They see modification as a corruption,
Led by anyone specific.
Yes, a former geneticist named Neala Sur. Ironically, she was involved in early enhancements before having a complete change of heart.
What's her argument?
She writes this manifesto, Return to Earth, warning about spiritual entropy. The idea that we're losing our connection to nature, to ourselves, by becoming synthetic. She has this line, we traded wisdom for processing power, wonder for certainty.
Powerful words. Is their resistance just philosophical, or do they
Right.
take action?
Oh, they take action. The book describes sabotage campaigns against biohacking labs, even targeting the empath circles. It raises the threat of real conflict.
So, another deep divide. Does Kyla ever engage with Nyla? Try to bridge that gap.
She does. They have this dialogue, trying to find common ground. They apparently agree on the importance of human agency, choice.
But disagree fundamentally on what that means.
Exactly. Kyla argues biohacking is nature, just guided evolution. Nyla fires back, and guidance is a form of control. It really encapsulates the core tension.
It's a debate we're kind of having now in some ways. So, how does society move forward from this point of high tension? The outline mentions an integration horizon.
Yeah, the book suggests that over time things start to settle, maybe. Biohacking doesn't go away, but it becomes more integrated. Bioethics is taught in schools, genomic checks are part of healthcare, basic neural upgrades might be available publicly, like at libraries.
So it shifts from revolutionary fringe to just part of the infrastructure.
Somewhat, yeah, a gradual normalization. Kyla, who's now technically 123 years old but looks 30 thanks to immortality,
Oh,
she leads this Horizon Institute, trying to reconcile tradition with this biohacked potential.
what's her message to the generations growing up in this integrated world?
Communicating via the neuromesh, she tells them they're not post-human, they are fully human for the first time.
Fully human. How does she figure that?
Her argument is that the enhancements amplify core human traits, feeling, understanding, dreaming. They're revelations, not replacements. And she ends with this thought, and our greatest upgrade will always be the choice to grow.
That's quite a hopeful perspective after all the conflict. Does it lead somewhere concrete in the book, this new Eden?
It does. The Eden habitat, established around 2150, is the culmination. It's an orbital biosphere designed for enhanced humans.
Living in space.
Yeah. And it's depicted as this seamless blend of biology and tech. Homes are literally grown, communication is telepathic, even time perception is supposedly fluid.
Sounds utopian. What's the most striking thing about it?
Maybe the neural garden. It's described as a shared space created and maintained purely by the collective imagination of the inhabitants through their neural link.
Created by thought. Wow. What about individuals we followed, like Milo, the soldier who struggled?
His arc is fascinating. He ends up as the groundskeeper in Eden. After chasing power through extreme mods, he finds peace in nurturing this collective biological creation.
From warrior to gardener.
Right. And he reflects, I thought I had to fight to be more. Turns out I had to listen. It suggests a shift from struggle to harmony.
So the narrative arc presented in the book takes us from disruption and conflict to this state of, well, integrated peace.
That's the vision it lays out. It acknowledges the immense challenges, the ethical tightropes, the societal upheavals, but ultimately suggests a path towards integration, towards potentially more connected, maybe even more empathetic forms of existence.
Okay, fascinating journey through that fictional world. Let's pull back for a moment. As you look back over this whole narrative, what are the big aha moments or key takeaways for you?
Well, definitely the sheer speed of change. Once that initial tech barrier breaks down, it really underscores how quickly things could move. Also, the constant ethical struggle. There are no easy answers presented.
Right. And it wasn't just about getting smarter or stronger.
No, that shift towards emotional and communal enhancement, the empath circles, that was really unexpected and interesting. A counter-narrative to just individual power. Obviously the whole immortalis thing, the questions about death, meaning what it means to be human, they stick with you.
Absolutely. And hopefully for you listening, this deep dive has given you a good, solid grasp of this complex future scenario condensed down.
Thinking about where we are now with CRISPR and neural interfaces developing.
Yeah, exactly. So the final thought for you to chew on, looking at our own world, what parts of this fictional future seem, I don't know, maybe not so fictional? What conversations should we be starting now about ethics, about limits, about potential?
Where do you draw the line? What does human potential mean to you? And what role should tech play in it?
Definitely something to think about. It's a discussion that's only just getting started.